Ginsai.com. Ginsai.com.
Hello and welcome to the JavaScript class. In this class we're going to learn JavaScript, but we're going to learn it in a new special way so it helps us learn other programming languages. We'll also talk a little bit about HTML5 here in this first lesson. There seems to be some confusion between JavaScript and HTML5, so we'll talk a little bit about the differences. But basically this is an introduction to JavaScript. It's the first lesson. We're going to get us up and running with a quick JavaScript program and see how it works. What is the difference between JavaScript and HTML5? Well, let's be clear, they're not the same. Quite often you'll hear people say, I programmed that in HTML5, and a lot of programming purists will go a little crazy about that because HTML is not a programming language. It is a markup language. JavaScript is a programming language. So when they say I programmed it in HTML5, they're being a little inaccurate, although it doesn't bother me too much. It does get some people a little iffy about it. HTML5 is a markup language. HTML5 has been around as long as web pages have been around. HTML is hypertext markup language. It's the language we describe a web page in so the web browser can render that web page. So if you're building a web page, chances are you're building it with HTML. JavaScript is a programming language that was added a little bit later, so you can add a little code. You can add some programming to a web page. But HTML and JavaScript have always been two separate things. You do not have to use JavaScript to build a web page. But you do have to use JavaScript if you want to add programming to a web page. So let's look at a very simple file that contains some HTML, more specifically some HTML5 and some JavaScript at the same time. First up is a standard HTML header. This prevents warning messages on the console. You pretty much just copy and paste this standard header to the top of all files. This is my version. You may have a slightly different version. As long as it doesn't produce error messages on the console, you can use whatever header you want. We might add more to this later, but for now this is a standard copy and paste. Boom. Put this at the top of all your HTML files and you'll be a happy camper. This is clearly HTML right here. Notice the angle brackets all the tags are in. Now if I had to point to something on this screen and say what is the HTML5, what you see in the box is the HTML5. This is the HTML5 canvas tag. This is our game screen or a window. It's going to put up a rectangular box on the screen and we're going to program our video game into this box, screen, window, whatever term you used to play. Now canvas is a tag that was added to HTML in version 5. So the canvas tag is definitely HTML5. Breaking down this canvas tag into a couple of the pieces because it's kind of big, we're first going to set up an ID equals my canvas. This is very much required. Future code that we're going to build in future lessons is going to assume that your canvas tag has this specific ID, my canvas. And let's just get into the habit of giving things an ID. All the elements on your web page that you give an ID should have a unique ID. So I want to get you into the habit of using this ID equal tag. We're going to use it a lot as we go forward, or as you go forward. If you learn a lot of HTML and CSS, you're going to need to learn this ID tag. So for now, just put in ID equals my canvas on the canvas tag and we'll be a happy camper. In the future, make sure you use ID tags on all your important elements. Width equals 800, height equals 600. Again, this is our game window screen. What we're saying is we want 800 pixels on the x-axis and we want 600 pixels on the y-axis. We're going to play this game in an 800 by 600 space on the x and y-axis. To be clear, we're doing a two-dimensional game here, so we need an x-axis and we need a y-axis. And that's where we're setting up the width and height of our game window. We're going to put an outline around our game screen / window to separate the game from the rest of the web page. This is what we call CSS, or a style attribute. We want a border around our game. It's going to be 4 pixels wide, this border. Right now it is a solid line rendered in red. We'll tweak with this as we play with the code when we load it up into the web browser and see how we can change the border around the screen. This is to clearly separate our game from the rest of the page. Here's a check for old web browsers. If you put it between the canvas tag and it does not support the canvas tag, this message warning, no HTML5 upgrade browser will show up. And there's no way around it. You have to upgrade this if you see this message. You must install an upgrade to the latest version of Firefox or the latest version of Chrome. You have to install a web browser upgrade if you see this message. If this message comes out, your browser simply doesn't support HTML5 and we're simply not going to be able to write the JavaScript to update this canvas tag. We also see the end of canvas tag here at the very end, at the end of the line here, and this closes the canvas tag and says we're done with the canvas tag. The canvas tag is one of the reasons why JavaScript and HTML5 get confused. The canvas tag is clearly HTML5. However, to do anything on that screen, you have to write a JavaScript program. And in fact, that's what the rest of this course is going to be, writing a JavaScript program to update this canvas tag and play our game in this canvas. If in order to use an HTML5 tag like canvas, you have to write JavaScript, a lot of people have been confusing the two terms, JavaScript with HTML5. I'd rather you say you've programmed your game in JavaScript and HTML5 than just to say you've programmed your game in HTML5. Technically, HTML5 is not a programming language. If you want to be accurate, you can say we're writing a game in JavaScript and HTML5. Let's switch over to the JavaScript side. Above this box, we're definitely dealing with HTML5. Inside this box, we are going to write our JavaScript. JavaScript is inside the HTML script tags. When you're ready to write some JavaScript, you insert it right in the middle or right with the HTML of your web page. And you do that by putting script tags in there. HTML5 is basically a combination of HTML and JavaScript in the same file. Anything between those angle brackets or the less than and greater than is most likely an HTML tag, right? This head tag at the top, that's HTML. This meta tag, that's HTML. The canvas tag is HTML. Technically, the script tags are HTML that says, okay, I want to write some JavaScript between my opening and closing script tags. You can change back and forth between JavaScript and HTML in this file. We won't be doing that here, certainly not in the first few lessons. We do HTML and then we're going to do a blob of JavaScript. But you can go back and forth, and on a complicated web page you may have several sections of HTML and JavaScript interspersed on the page. We're not going to do that here, but it is possible. Anything between script tags will be JavaScript. To break that down a little clearer, the opening script HTML tag, any code after this tag is JavaScript. Boom. Basically what we're saying is we're suspending the HTML and starting to code in JavaScript. This line of code, console.log, hello world, that's JavaScript. We're going to write a message out to the JavaScript console. And when we run this code, we'll see how it appears. That's JavaScript. If you're between script tags anywhere on the web page, you are coding in JavaScript. Then there's the closing script tag, the closing HTML script tag. Any code after that would pick up with HTML. I would expect to see any code below this to be actual HTML. And again, you can go back and forth. You can have some HTML and then some JavaScript and then some HTML and then some JavaScript. It's perfectly okay to do it that way. As a beginning course, we're going to try and do this all in one section of JavaScript. If you know web pages and you want to build a web page around your game, feel free, but that is certainly not going to be a requirement. There you have it. There's sort of your first look at HTML/JavaScript. The upper half of the screen is HTML. The canvas tag is definitely an HTML5 tag. That was not added until HTML5 standard came out. And you have to have a newer web browser in order for that canvas tag to work. So that's going to be a requirement for this course, a newer web browser. I prefer Firefox and Chrome, but whatever browser you have, as long as it'll run HTML5, we're going to have to be able to live with that. And then we've got some JavaScript down there at the bottom between the script tags. Let's go ahead and pull up this code, save it to a file on our hard drive, and pull it up and see it in a web browser. You're going to have to be able to edit the code with hopefully a text editor and pull up a web browser and view this code. So let's do that right now and see how it works. Let's start with a program that everybody has, and that would be Notepad. Never seen a Windows computer that didn't have the Notepad program on it. If you pull up the search window, type in Notepad. Before you get to the P, it'll pop up as an option to run the Notepad program. Notepad is a plain text editor. No fancy features, no nothing. I only am looking at it because every computer has it. We'll look at a better option here shortly. Let's use Notepad now and bring in our code. I'm going to copy and paste the code from the slide into Notepad. And there it is. You'll see there's no color coding. There's no fancy formatting. It's not the greatest text editor in the world, but it's usable. The important thing I want to do here now in Notepad is I want to copy and paste the code in and do a file save as. Now I've set up a folder here on my desktop called JavaScript. That's all I want you to do. I want you to create a folder somewhere on your computer named JavaScript or similar, and let's save that file into that folder. Make sure you give it a descriptive name like game1.html. Now, I like the name game1.html. This is going to be an HTML file, and it has to have an HTML extension. So do not let it default to the .txt extension. Browsers will not render the file if it has a .txt extension. So with my game1.html file name, I'm just going to save it into my little JavaScript folder. Now, once it's in my JavaScript folder, I can now open and view that file with a web browser. So I'll pull up my favorite browser, the one I'm hoping you're going to use, and that is Firefox. When I pull up Firefox here, you'll notice that Firefox has at the top a file menu. That file menu is optional. If I right click here, I can say turn the menu bar off. If I right click again, I can turn the menu bar back on. I prefer to code with that menu bar because there's options on it that I need while I'm coding. So from the file menu, I'm going to hit open file. Also notice you can hit Control O to open a file. This is for opening a file that's directly on your hard drive. So I'm going to click Open File, and you know that file I just saved on my hard drive? It was in the desktop JavaScript folder. That's the one I'm going to open. There's my brand new game1.html file. And you can see the type says it's a HTML document. We're going to open that file. And there it is. Not too exciting, is it? Not exciting at all. Well, sorry about that. But we're just getting started here, and we want to set up our window. Let's go ahead and look at our Notepad file next to it. Clearly, we're setting a style with a border with 4 pixels wide and a solid red line, and I'm seeing my 4 pixels wide solid red line. Now, if I were to come over here to my Notepad file and change the color of that line, let's change the color of that line to green. Now here's an important step. I've edited the file in a text editor. I say File, save that file. When I come back to my program and hit reload on the web browser, look, my border changed to green. There, you've done it. You're well on your way to writing computer programs. You've been able to open and save a text file, a .html extension file, and you've been able to change, edit it, and see the changes as they appear on the screen. That is very, very important. You've got to be able to edit a text file. One more thing. Remember the message you were going to write out, that console hello world? If I go under Tools, Web Developer, Browser Console, now notice here it says Control-Shift-J is the keyboard shortcut. So Browser Console under the Web Developer menu can be activated with a Control-Shift-J, but if I look at that Browser Console, I pop up some message and there's my hello world. My program said display on the console log the hello world. There it is. Now I'm going to clear my old messages. You'll see lots of old messages on there. So it's very important when you're testing your program to clear your browser console, run your program, and then new messages are important to look at. So let's move this over just a little bit and hit reload. And you can see every time I hit reload, Hello World comes out. So I did 3 reloads. There's the 3 Hello Worlds programs. Every time I reload, it reruns my JavaScript program. There you have it. That's all you really need to do for this class. Now I'm going to show you a couple of other options for programming that hopefully you'll take advantage of. The first option I want to explain to you is let's upgrade this text editor. You know, Notepad will do. If that's all you have on your computer, it will do. But there's a much better text editor out there that's a free download, and it's called Notepad Plus. Let me pull up my Notepad Plus program. Now, it's easy to find. If you go on to Google and you Google Notepad it'll pop up right up and you can download and install it. If you have the capability of downloading and installing a new text editor, I strongly suggest you getting Notepad or a similar program. The big difference you'll see is color highlighting. When you save a file as game1.html, it says, well, I will highlight that thing. You can see my tags are in blue and my attributes are in orange and my console.log command is in black. My text strings are in gray. This is very, very important to get color highlighting. Color highlighting means when you screw up, when you make a mistake, like let me get rid of this quote there, it will color or highlight the colors in the wrong color and you'll be able to see some of it. See that extra purple there? When I leave off an important character that I need, bad things happen to the colors. So I want to bring all this back, have a color highlighted text editor. That's very important. Notepad I think is a better option. Let's go ahead and change the line here to dashed. But other than that, this is a very similar program to Notepad. It's just Notepad with extra features. That's why they call it Notepad++. So I said change my line to dash. I have to save those changes. If you don't save the file in your text editor, you're certainly not going to see it on your web browser. And then I'm going to hit reload on there. And you can see now I have a dashed green line. That's all I want you to do here in this first lesson is open up a text editor, save an HTML file, load it in the web browser, change it a little bit, and see the changes in the web browsers. Firefox isn't the only web browser. It's the one that I prefer you use, but it's not the only web browser. Let's go over and take a quick look at Chrome and see what we have to do to use Chrome. Now, the first thing you'll see in Chrome, yikes, and I don't like this change they made to Chrome, is there's no file menu. They got rid of the file menu. And it's tough to bring back, so let's just use those keyboard shortcuts. Remember, Control O, at least under Windows, was the keyboard shortcut to open a file. So in Firefox, I don't have a file menu anymore. I'll hit Control O and open my file. I go to Desktop, JavaScript, Game 1, and I open the file, and there it is. Let me shrink Firefox out of the way so you don't confuse the two. So now I've got Chrome and I've got my program up and running in Chrome. If you hit Control-Shift-J once again, that'll bring up the Chrome browser console. And you can see our Hello World showed up. And if I hit Reload in Chrome, I should see a new Hello World. Let me clear this out. There's a cleared console. It's the little line through it. There's the clear sound. It's also Control L, you can see, to clear the console. And if I hit reload, I see my new Hello World. Now let's do a change and make sure we can see the change. Let's do some actual JavaScript programming. Let's change our message to Hello World. It is me. And remember to save it into your text editor. Once you've saved it, you can come back over here to Chrome, hit reload, and we should see our new message. Hello World, it is me. Congratulations, you've just modified or changed your first JavaScript program. That was actual JavaScript programming. You modified the message that came out on the console. One more quick change. Let's get back to a solid line here. I'll hit save under the text editor, hit reload under Chrome, and I'm back to my solid line. So you're going to have to remember, Chrome does not have that file menu, so you're going to have to do Control O to open your HTML file. Notice how this is an HTML extension on my file. You're also going to have to remember Control Shift J is how you get to the browser console. One more browser, and let's do Internet Explorer browser. It's a little big, I'll shrink it down. Here's Internet Explorer, not my favorite browser. If it's the only one you have, let's go ahead and use it. Do not use Microsoft Edge, that doesn't have a file menu. I'll go to the file menu, at least we have a file menu here once again. I'll hit the open option. In this case, if I want something off of my hard drive, I have to also hit the browse button. The browse button will open up my JavaScript folder here. I'll go to desktop JavaScript, that's where I put my file. I'll select the file I want to open and view. And like the other web browsers, I can view an HTML file that is on my hard drive. I'll hit the allow block contact button here so I can see my JavaScript running. And there we have it. I'll come over here to my text editor and let's change our border frame back to a red border. I'll hit save and I'll hit reload. There's the little reload icon, or refresh as they call it in Internet Explorer. And I'm back to my red screen, 800 by 600. I'm ready to code. I'm ready to write JavaScript. Slightly different way to access the browser console. If I want to see my hello world, it's me message on this web browser, remember we're on Internet Explorer here, Control Shift J doesn't work anymore. I'm hitting Control Shift J and it's not working under Internet Explorer. That's why we need this file menu. Make sure that you have the menu bar up. You can turn the menu bar off or you can turn the menu bar on. Make sure that you have your menu bar on if you're going to be programming. So what I'm going to do to get to the browser console is go to Tools, and if you scroll down, you'll see here it says F12 Developer Tools. Now it depends on what version of IE you're running, but somewhere under this Tools menu should be something for Developer Tools. And under Developer Tools, there should be some way to pull up the browser console. And here is our console. And if I hit reload, I can see my hello world. It is me. To make sure that we're looking at the latest, I'll come back to my text editor. I'll get rid of the it is me. Hit save. Remember, that's always, every once in a while I'll forget to hit save and I'll say, where's my changes? Make sure you hit save on the text window and reload, and you'll see we're back to plain old hello world. When you're tired of this browser console, you hit the little X-Men box there and it's off. And again, I kind of like the browser console as a separate window, but that's the way this version of Internet Explorer does it. The other thing you got to watch out for Internet Explorer is they're constantly changing these menus. Your option for pulling up the developer tools in the browser console might look slightly different on a different version of Internet Explorer. Okay, I think that's it. We've tried 3 different browsers. We've tried 2 different text editors. My preferences are Firefox and Notepad++. Yours may vary. Feel free to use whatever you want. As long as you can, number 1, open a text editor and edit a text file. Save it to your hard drive. Then load a web browser and open and read that file so you can work from your hard drive. I'm a happy camper. Make sure you can also load the browser console and see your JavaScript error messages and your JavaScript logs. Ooh, that's a good point. What I'm going to do here is, before I leave, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to make a big mistake here. I'm going to leave off a double quote and a parentheses. What this is going to do is really mess up that command. That is a big fat error. One of the reasons I'm teaching you right away how to read this browser console is your error message will show up on the browser console. Now you can see here that it's saying expected semicolon here. That is a script error message. See that red X right there? That is saying you've got a big fat error in your code. Now that 1016 is trying to tell me that on line 10 or right around character 16 you have a problem. So you're gonna need that browser console in order to see any error messages you make in your JavaScript code. Now I'm going to fix my error, hit save, hit reload, and the next time I run my program, no error message. Well, that's a good point. Let's go over that and see that in Firefox. Let me pull up old Firefox. Okay, here's my Firefox. I'm going to hit reload. Back to my natural state there on Firefox. I have my message. I'll make another mistake here. Let's get rid of the quotes and the semicolons on the end. And again, you can kind of see where the color kind of helps you out. If I type some stuff here, see all that gray text? That's bad, right? I forgot a closing quote. So when you miss a closing quote there, you'll see some of that gray text in there, and it's kind of your hint that you made a mistake. But we'll also look at this in the browser console. Control Shift J will pull up the browser console, and you'll see syntax error, unclosed or unterminated string literal, and it's saying again line number 10 right around character 12 is where it detected the problem. Sometimes these error messages will be really good, sometimes they'll be bad. In this case, it's trying to tell me I'm missing that double quote. If I go back here, I had a starting double quote here, and I have a requirement to have a matching closed double quote. Same thing for the starting open parentheses. If you have an open parentheses, there is a requirement for a closed parentheses. So the error message did a fairly good job of telling me at least the line number where the problem was. It would have been nice if it said, hey, you're missing a double quote. But unterminated string literal is saying, hey, you forgot the end of this string. So I fixed my error message. I'll hit save on my text editor. I'll come back over here, reload my web browser, and now here's an important thing. See that unterminated string literal? That was the old error message. Now I know from experience that hello world's coming out because I fixed it. But if you really want to verify that you fixed it, I'm going to hit clear my browser console, and I'm going to hit reload again, and now I get just plain hello world with no error message. That's an important point. Try not to focus on old error messages. Clear the browser console, rerun your program or reload your web page, and then look at the browser console, and that way you're looking at fresh error messages, not old stale error messages. If you're running with a lot of browser windows open, those web pages are writing to this console too. So it's not always your web page that's generating the messages on this console. So there you have it. Hopefully that's enough to get you started in your JavaScript. In the next lesson, we'll go much farther and write a lot more JavaScript programming. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next lesson.